This episode of Superconnectivity is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Hello and welcome once again to another episode of Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is...
Phil, me and Parrish.
Hey Phil, always glad to have you. It was great hanging out with you live last week, and here we are, not quite so live this week, but still pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. Shout out, Phil, what was the name of our loyal listener who lives mere moments from Irwin, Pennsylvania?
Let me double check this. I don't want to get your name wrong. It was Brian Keegan.
Brian Keegan. Thank you so much for writing, Brian. It's always great to hear from our fans. We love you guys. We love that you listen, and we love that you write in. And please keep it coming. If you have any specific questions or thoughts, let us know. Brian just wrote to say how excited he was to know that we were right there in Irwin, not far from him. And for those who did not know, I live in Newark, New Jersey. So if you live in the New Jersey or New York metropolitan area, give us a write. And who knows, maybe we can meet up and talk comic books live and in person sometime. Anyway, moving right along. Man, I tell you, the news in the comics world is still a buzz about Captain America. I have come up with a new crazy fan theory. Would you like to hear it, Phil?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, as we've said, people keep on saying, "Oh, but how could Cap be truly worthy if he killed Jack Flag?" To it, I keep on having to say, we don't know he killed Jack Flag. Mm-hmm. We really don't. We know he threw Jack Flag out of an airplane, but let's face it, if throwing someone out of an airplane was enough to kill you in a comic book, there would be a lot more dead people in comic books nowadays, pretty much throwing someone out of an airplane is pretty much a guarantee they're going to live. And especially, as we pointed out last week, Jack has a hoverboard. He had a whole flying apparatus right behind him. He's got his backup free spirit, who could always do some sort of super leap to catch him. There are options for Jack Flag to survive. And here's the thing. Cap knows this. Cap would know that just throwing Jack Flag out of a plane isn't necessarily going to kill him, that he might have options. So if he really wants to cover his tracks, throwing Jack Flag out of the plane is the least effective way to do that. So if we're going to say that Cap knew that Jack Flag isn't going to die, we can ask what exactly is going on in this scene, because that's the thing. We have one scene. We have one panel. The whole pearl clutching event is based on, two panels of Cap throwing Jack out the plane and then him saying Hail Hydra to Selvig. And so here's my theory. What if Cap is just really aware that someone's been messing with him? He knows that these ghost memories aren't his. He knows that something's off with his body. And when he meets Selvig and finds him with Zemo, he realizes that, Kobik did something to him, and he needs to find out what. And he needs to find out in a way that he's not a danger to his friends. Because he knows that there's this back of his mind memory that doesn't belong there that he needs to sort out. And Selvig, of course, is the leading expert on Kobik. And, of course, Zemo was there and was trying to manipulate Kobik himself. So when Jack Flag realizes, oh, you've got him, let's go take him back so we can interrogate him. And Cap is like, no, I need to have this guy alone so I can sort out what's going on. He pushes Jack out the plane, takes over the plane to fly off, and he says to Selvig to key him into what's going on, that he knows Kobik messed with him. He says, "Hail Hydra." That he's not actually saying to Kobik, "Hail Hydra," or not saying to Selvig, "Hail Hydra," because he thinks Selvig is Hydra. Or who knows, he may know that Selvig is Hydra at this point. But he is saying, I know that something is up. That's his way to key into Selvig that, you or Kobik or Zemo is manipulating me. I want to find out what you guys did. So that is my big prediction, which will be answered, in a few short weeks when we get Steve Rogers Captain America issue 2. And of course, as people say, for all the complaints about Steve Rogers Captain America, it was the top selling book that week. So for every complaint, everyone still went out and bought it. Everyone, like me, everyone said, I can't complain unless I read it, which shows you how good and noble comic book people are. That if we're going to complain, we're going to give it the full read. People still went and complained, and they complained before they read. I know I did. But after we've read, I think that people are calming down a bit more, although it's still the topic of conversation. But so anyway, so my grand unified theory of Cap right now is that, yes, Kobik used an alternate universe Cap to help rebuild him, possibly the Cap from Hail Hydra, who was a good guy even if he was in Hydra. And Steve knows that he has been manipulated, and that's why he tossed Jack off the plane, because he does not want to get his friends involved in this because he doesn't know the extent of it yet. And he wants to interrogate Selvig and Zemo on his own. So that's my theory. We're going to see if it pans out. I got a feeling we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks. Next week, what's it called? Thunderbolts comes back out, so we get to see how Kobik puts Moonstone back together again. But so that'll be interesting. What do you think about all this, Phil? I mean, have you been working on any fan theories of your own?
Well, I've been thinking that maybe he is faking it, 'cause like we said, we haven't seen a body. Jack Flag might not be dead. And another theory I've been thinking about recently is, what if, whether it's Kobik or something else happened, what if Steve has like a multiple personality now? So the good Steve is still in there, but meanwhile there's like a Hydra agent in there too, because maybe that's why he's having trouble with the shield, because his mind is fighting with itself.
Well, there was a whole. I think we actually talked about this last week. Was that when Steve came back from the dead the last time, when he was pulled out of time, that the Red Skull did enter Steve's mind. Steve was able to fight him, but it's possible that Red Skull is still in there. And of course, the new Red Skull is a completely different Red Skull. The new Red Skull is just a clone of Red Skull with his Red Skull memories from World War II just implanted. So it's possible that Red Skull saw the new Red Skull in Steve's mind and decided to have a little fun, with himself, perhaps even fearing and becoming jealous of himself in that situation. That there is this other Red Skull, knowing that he is not unique, is very disturbing. So the idea that there's someone else in Cap's body is a very real possibility. Exactly who it is going to be the mystery, and that's what we're going to solve in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Okay, moving right along. Other news that was coming out in the comic book world today is, first off, we get casting news on our new Captain Marvel. Did you hear this, Phil? Who's in the lead?
Yes, I did. What's her name? Her name's on the tip of my tongue. Who is it?
Yeah, mine too.
I can look it up.
Well, yeah, here we go. Let's go Captain Marvel casting.
It's like a famous actress, too.
Yeah, well, she's an Oscar winner, even.
Yes.
Which is like, but that's what Marvel does. They aren't going for unknowns anymore. They're actually casting...
Brie Larson?
I thought it was Brie Larson, but I just didn't want to say that. Yeah, Brie Larson. I'm not quite sure what she won the Oscar for, but I'm sure it was awesome. And she is the lead she's the lead negotiated person to play Captain Marvel. Not as physically imposing as say Ronda Rousey, but obviously will be acting imposing, and I'm sure they'll give her the superhero training regimen before she starts. That's always the deal. They hire you and then they give you a personal trainer, and then they say, okay, for the next 6 months, you're going to run around a lot and eat 5 million calories a day to build a body that looks like a comic book character. Yes, and you thought acting would be easy, Yeah, so Brie Larson as Captain Marvel could be good. Could be good. Apparently the Academy thinks she can act. So, and of course that is the most important thing. It's one of those things where people say, one of the problems with past ones is that they would look for a guy that physically looked like a superhero and then hope he could act. But now they're just, since Michael Keaton, they said, well, let's find a guy who can act. Let's see if we can turn him into a superhero. Between foam padding and exercise regimes and whatnot, let's see if we can turn a good actor into a great comic book character. Mm-hmm. And speaking of Michael Keaton, he's back. Did you hear?
Is he confirmed for Spider-Man?
Yeah, he is confirmed back on Spider-Man. I've read it that he has stated he is going to be in Spider-Man. No word on exactly what he's playing. I haven't even heard it confirmed that he's the villain yet. Mm-hmm. There is all sorts of discussion as to who he could be. Is he, is he Norman Osborn and they're just going to do an Osborn arc without the Goblin? Is he going to be the Vulture, which has been rumored? Is he going to be the Tinkerer? Or is it going to be a character that we have not seen yet? We've seen rumored yet, like Mysterio. I think, like I said, I think the Vulture could be good. Although, as I said, it might be a little on the nose going from Birdman to Vulture. I think the Tinkerer would be a great character. But, the Tinkerer was never really a villain. He was always villain support. He was villain tech, Yeah. He wasn't the criminal mastermind. Sadly, Vincent D'Onofrio, who said he would love to be in it, is not going to be in it as Kingpin. He said, I'm always down to reprise this role. It was a great role. But I have not been asked yet. And so we can probably assume he's not going to be there, at least until Disney sorts out the whole TV movie Ike Perlmutter fiasco. It is one of these things where you're just not quite sure how to take it all anymore. I mean, we get into our gossip about Ike Perlmutter, which we do all the time. And I do feel that the man is hurting comic books in general and Marvel in particular, and especially the Marvel live action properties. But, obviously a lot of the things people say about Ike Perlmutter aren't true. Like they're saying, oh, he killed the Fantastic Four because they lost Fox. Except Fantastic Four went on for years while they were over at Fox. And for what it's worth, they allowed Fantastic Four to be central to Hickman's big run on the Avengers last season, So it's not like you can say that, they're getting rid of the Fantastic Four. It's like, well, yeah, they're getting rid of the Fantastic Four, a decade after they lost the rights. They finally found the storyline to push the Fantastic Four out of the spotlight, but they kept on renewing the book and keeping the book out there. They certainly kept Invisible Woman in central art for all of the Marvel, big events that were coming up. this and that and the other. So, and of course, for what it's worth, he certainly hasn't curtailed the mutant books. Everyone says, oh, they don't promote the mutant books. And I'm just thinking, wasn't the last big event Avengers versus X-Men? How is that not promoting the mutants? Clearly the mutants are still a big thing. Clearly yes, the mutants are being put through the ringer right now with the Mpox. And yes, the Inhumans are a new exploration of the mutant conundrum, but in general, they're not. The mutants haven't gone anywhere. The mutants are still very much a part of the Marvel universe and still very much, played up in the Marvel universe. So I really think that people oversell how negative Ike Perlmutter is. The most that we can say about Ike Perlmutter is that he is apparently he was the driving force behind keeping Black Widow out of her own film and keeping her off of the merchandise, which we now know is no longer something he's doing. So it's clear that they've been either he's been weakening in his stances on these things, or DC or Marvel or Disney. I'm sorry, Disney has been weakening his ability to object. So I do think that Ike is. I think that Marvel Entertainment will be put under the Feige banner sooner rather than later. I think with this big Netflix deal, which is something we actually haven't talked about much yet, is that Disney has made a deal with Netflix, and all of Disney's films will be streaming on Netflix very soon. The whole reason I got Netflix was that there was this promise of this grand bargain between Disney and Netflix. And I've been sitting here paying my $9.99 a month for Netflix for years with almost no Marvel content, except for, I guess our 3 seasons now, 2 of Daredevil, 1 of, which were great, which were worth it, don't get me wrong. But, I was promised a lot more. And it looks like we're finally getting that lot more, that the lot more is coming. We're going to get our streaming of the Marvel movies on Netflix, which will be awesome. And, I do wonder if Disney is eventually going to buy Netflix. That is my thinking is that is their long-term goal, to just fold it into the Disney ABC empire. But we're going to have to see what they decide to do with that. We're going to see if Netflix takes it and if Disney really wants it. Let's see here. Other news. What do you think about that, Phil? Do you think business-wise, do you think it's a good choice for Disney to try and buy Netflix, or do you think it's more better to keep their options open and just keep with these exclusive deals?
I think it's good. The Netflix thing is good. At least for them. All their content, if you put all their content in one spot, plus I think they see the trend is going that more and more people are cutting the cable, as it were, and going to these streaming services. So I think they have their eye on the long game. Where is it going to be in 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, well, exactly, and I do think that is. I think that they're positioning themselves very well there now. Of course, actually, if Disney were to buy Netflix, I'm sure it causes all kinds of problems. Long term with the idea of, if you have a content provider owning a company, if you have that vertical integration, does that present an unfair monopolistic situation where then every company has to sign a deal? Warner has to make their deal with Amazon, and every studio has to then get a streaming service that they can sign up to. And if you have your competitor owning the streaming service, that could be real problematic. So at the same time that Marvel or Disney might want to buy Netflix, it may actually cause its own set of headaches, because is Universal going to want to put their films? Are they going to want to put, are we going to get, is Star Trek and Jurassic Park going to wind up on Netflix, or are they going to say, well, we're not going to go to Netflix because they're the competition? That's the interesting question there. But speaking of the competition, there's some interesting news in Marvel rights lately, which is that Joe Quesada has stated that Namor is 100% in Marvel now. Marvel owns Namor. Namor is back with Marvel. This is one of these characters like when Ghost Rider came back to Marvel, where you can say, it's an interesting idea, but is there really something you can do with it? And it's not to take away from Namor. I'm a Namor fan myself. I think that Namor has a lot going for him. If nothing else, he is the better Aquaman. Actually predates Aquaman too. So was not afraid to really show off his body. Doesn't have all those body shame issues that Aquaman has. There's talk that they may bring Namor back into the Marvel universe after his death. That Power Princess might be bringing him back, perhaps with the aid of Dr. Druid in some manner. My big hope, though, if they do that, is that they give him red hair again. Because for those who don't remember, Namor used to have red hair, and I think that would be a great way to show that this is the new Namor. Make him a ginger. That would be awesome. It's like Doctor Who. You get reincarnated. You always hope you're going to be a ginger. Anyway, that could be good. And of course, one place we may see that is in the upcoming films. We'll have to see how they play the Atlanteans. As I said, when they first introduced the Kree, I thought when we saw the body there, and I said, that could be an Atlantean, and people pshawed that. And they were perhaps rightly so to do that. They weren't moving towards Atlanteans; they were moving towards the Kree. They wanted to, the Kree were name checked. Though I felt that was meant as a red herring. As it turns out, it was a blue herring. Something you saw and we're supposed to follow. So, but that's okay. But it would be nice to see the Atlanteans come into the storyline. Although, again, that again, as I've said a million times, that would have been a perfect storyline for Marvel's Most Wanted. Just to throw out that pitch again, the best thing that they could do right now with the Marvel's Most Wanted idea, and with Agent Carter, who, by the way, Haley Atwell says, yes, I'm 100% down for Agent Carter. You call me, I'm there. I'm Agent Carter. I am happy to be part of this character again, which shows you what a good relationship everyone has with Marvel right now. Mm-hmm. You compare that to like when they did Spider-Man 3, and everyone was really like, yeah, well, we don't know if there's going to be a 4, and we kind of told our stories. No one at Marvel is saying we've kind of told our stories. In fact, pretty much everyone in Marvel says, oh no, we're happy to tell our stories more. We would love to come back. Even Chris Evans, who was like, for the longest time, like, oh, Chris Evans doesn't want to be Captain America anymore. And he was like, don't bury me yet. Okay. I do want to do other things, but it's not like I'm going to say no if anyone wants me to be Captain America. As long as I can fit in the tights, he's happy to do it. Because as you said, it's not like you're doing a bad film every year. It's like, no, it's like, oh, these are really well written films. And for Captain America, there's no denying that is one of those few franchises that just got better with every iteration. And that's pretty awesome. That is a feat. Certainly never been reproduced in the Marvel universe yet. Although we'll see how Ragnarok does, because who's in Ragnarok, Phil? It's not really news, but the Hulk will be in Ragnarok, and the big rumor is that they're going to be playing with the Planet Hulk storyline. I don't even know what that means, except I'm guessing that we're going to get Hulk in a gladiatorial ring at some point.
Yeah, you know what?
We do see that.
If we have the Game Master and everything, could he pit Thor and Hulk against each other?
That might be interesting. That is that big question with the Grand Master in this, and Mr. Frost. I'm blanking on his name. Why can't I remember his name? Who's that actor? Jeff Goldblum. With Jeff Goldblum, is he going to be, an after credits character? Is he going to be a one scene character? Or is he going to be really the villain of the piece, the manipulator behind it? Is it going to be the Grand Master versus Loki? The Grand Master knows, Loki's secret, and they're going to get into this competition. It's like, in fact, I could so see that being the conceit of the whole thing. It's sort of a contest of champions. The Grand Master, saying to Loki, I'm impressed by your abilities as a gamesman. Let us have a contest. You place your heroes, and I'll select some of my own. And of course, that explains how Hulk gets to Asgard, because he's like, I will pick the Hulk. And I can just see him, I can just see Loki saying, I have Thor, and Grandmaster saying, yes, well, I have a Hulk. Oh, that would be truly awesome. And so a gladiatorial concept might be interesting. I don't know if we'll get Meek and although it would be nice to see what's his name, Korg, I believe, the Rockman again. That would be nice. We got to see one of the Saturnians previously in Thor, although they didn't do much with him. But it would be nice to see one again. That would be fantastic. Quite frankly. However, what I was saying about one of the best things you could do with Marvel's Most Wanted would be to create this idea where you merge Agent Carter's story with it, so that you have this idea that after Agent Carter dies, she has all of her super secret files, stuff that she couldn't go public with while alive, that get bequeathed to Dominic Fortune, and then Dominic Fortune essentially has to go through all of Peggy's X files and gets hires Mockingbird and Hunter to be his legmen as they travel around the world and start uncovering all of the things that S.H.I.E.L.D. kept hidden all these years, all the monsters in the earth, which would be a great place to introduce the Atlanteans and Namor. Who knows, perhaps even suggesting an Atlantean or Namor Peggy romance. Wouldn't that be awesome? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you just love to see Peggy and Namor get it on? Give Cap a taste of his own medicine.
Namor steals everyone's girlfriend.
I know. Well, that's what he does. That's his thing, man. He's just because he's got no clothes on. He's like, hey, ladies, and gets that fishy pheromone going for him. He's awesome, and he's got the Spock ears. What girl doesn't love Spock ears? It would be great. I would love to see that. I would love if you're going to bring so that's my suggestion. If you're going to do Namor, bring Namor back. Bring Jim Hammond back and have a little like this storyline in the past with Namor, perhaps even with Namor and Jim Hammond fighting over Peggy Carter, and Peggy Carter saying, "I am not a trophy to be won, you stupid men." And they say, "Well, technically, neither one of us is a man. He's an Atlantean, and I'm a Randroid." Although I do hope we do get Jim Hammond in the next season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that when they bring in the Squadron Supreme and the Life Model Decoy Squadron Supreme, that and they start to go rogue, that's when Phil says, "I think I know a guy who can help," and they go and they dig out the old Human Torch and pull him out and have Fitz and Simmons keep him from bursting into flames constantly so he can be on the show as a regular basis. And then you have because they're going to send the squadron after Quake. That's like what they're setting up, because Quake's a problem. They need superhumans to battle them. They don't really even want to use the Avengers, because the Avengers are always going rogue, and for what it's worth, they're down to like 3 members, 2 really, because Rhodey survived, which we can't say for Civil War. Oh, that killed me. That killed me. For those who didn't listen to the All New Marvel Roundup this week, you should. In Civil War II, after we get the whole thing of Rhodey being said, "You should be president, Rhodey," yay, he goes and gets himself all killed by Thanos, and possibly She-Hulk gets killed by Thanos as well. which causes Tony Stark no end of "it's everybody else's fault but mine" itis, because it was Tony's fault that Rhodey died, because Tony wasn't upgrading his armor properly, wasn't helping out his friend. Like all superheroes do, they have a friend and then they just forget about him. Only useful when you're useful. And so that is the guilt that's devouring Iron Man and why he's going to go to war. Fun story, because Marvel is so light. Although speaking of lightness and everything, let's talk about what got squashed in the news last week. Let's talk about Rebirth, Phil. Okay. So for those who don't know, DC came out with, for $2.99 last week, a huge book, just not a money grab, but just a, hey, come see how we're going to make it all better. Come see our new grand adventure. Not going to charge you an arm and a leg for it. We're basically giving it away at $2.99, and has this amazing twist ending in the end. Nobody even mentions it because Hydra Cap. And it's funny. Although it's funny when they asked Tom Brevoort about that. About whether or not that was intentional, and he said, we don't really know when everything's going to drop. We really don't know what they're doing. And he said, we did not intend to do that, but if we could have, yes, we would have done that in a heartbeat. It is a competition. He was very happy that they still, and he said, it's a really good book. Everyone at Marvel says, oh yeah, and I'm sure they all felt that, oh man, this is, I'm sure they all felt that, Rebirth was going to be the dominant story. Because, as we've said, it's just basically 2 panels and at the end of a Captain America book that you knew was going to end on a cliffhanger. But, it just goes to show the passion people have for some of these characters. And for what it's worth, the passion that people have right now for Captain America, no doubt based a lot on the fact that the movies are so successful, and that just ate up all the air. So, but we want to give Rebirth its due. And the big twist in Rebirth is the suggestion, and again, not confirmed. And for what it's worth, Dave Gibbons says no one talked to me about bringing back the Watchmen or that using the Watchmen in this way. Not that but he also said not that they have to, but yeah, no one spoke with me about this, so I have no idea what's going on. It was suggested that basically Dr. Manhattan has been manipulating the Marvel, or not the Marvel, the DC universe for longer than the New 52. Actually says that. Wally West says, he used the Flashpoint to manipulate us, but I think he's been manipulating us far longer, So, and the implication is that, there is this metatextual suggestion here that, since the end of Watchmen, that, DC Comics have gotten much darker, much grimmer, much heavier in story and countenance. And, now we're actually going to have a reason for that. An in-story reason for that is this manipulation from the Alan Moore universe, and that now the heroes are going to try and reclaim their birthright, which is a really grand arc, especially for DC. As we've said, the glory of DC is its gods, modern day gods. It is, DC in many ways is, people say that, Kirby did his best work with DC. I think that Kirbyisms permeated DC far stronger than even in Marvel. Because I do think that Stan Lee was far more influential on story at Marvel than necessarily Kirby. Kirby was certainly the most influential artist at Marvel. There's no doubt about that. Kirby defined Marvel art. But I do think that, what you get when you look at Marvel is ideas that were put forth mostly by Stan, um, and others. We don't want to shortchange anyone in this, but I do think that grand vision of sad sack heroes is much more Stan Lee's idea. And I think when you get to these modern gods, that is very much DC's view, which is, and it is an older view of comics. It's a golden age view of comics. And of course, Jack Kirby was one of the founding fathers of golden age comics and really influenced it well. And I think that when he came to DC, he brought in his new gods, of which, I don't know if he directly created Darkseid, but that concept, that alien concept, is very permeated throughout the DC universe and is very much they're very much in their DNA now, and I do think that's a good thing. And to that extent, I think that having the DC modern day gods go up against the god beyond, the god above, if you will, go up against some sort of a creature from beyond, a beyonder, if you will, who had been manipulating their timeline. This all sounds a little familiar all of a sudden. It does. I think it speaks very well to what makes DC Comics great, and I think Rebirth, despite my lackluster feelings about Batman's Rebirth, I think that DC Rebirth is going to be a really great thing for DC. And I know you and Lilith were both really jazzed about Green Arrow, which I did not get the chance to pick up this week because it had sold out. How do you feel about the Rebirth so far, Phil?
Well, like me and Lilith are saying, I think we like what they're doing so far. I mean, we don't have we haven't seen everything yet, but I think they're going in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? That they're bringing back enough of the classic elements that people do like, and kind of shuffling off those things from New 52 that turn people off. Yeah,
well, and it is arguable, like I said, that the problems didn't start with New 52. Although I guess perhaps people feel that did exacerbate everything, and but of course that's the great thing about comics is when things go wrong, you just you reboot it, or you retell the story, or you say, well, actually, what happened was, this other thing, and that's what's great about comics. That's why comics are this fantastic, eternal, ongoing storyline that never stops and never starts. It's just as Dr. Manhattan said to Adrian Veidt, nothing ever ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends, and that's true if you're Captain America or you're Dr. Manhattan or you're Batman. It doesn't really end, even when it looks like it has. So I think that's most of the connections for this week, Phil. What do you think? Is there anything you wanted to talk about?
No, but yeah, I think that's everything. Because for a week you said there wasn't much. We did hit a broad range of topics here.
Yeah. Well, we still, because and for what it's worth, it's still spillover from last weekend. And I'll say this much good for the universe. At least there was not a gigantic black hole of suck like Fantastic Four, like Batman v Superman, to just keep on drawing you back in. Now, I haven't seen X-Men Apocalypse yet, and we're going to have to see if that is a black hole of suck or not. But I'm hoping not a black hole of suck. So you can all tune in later this week, because we're going to record it tonight, the great Marvel vs. DC podcast of me and Lilith and Phil discussing X-Men Apocalypse and whether or not it was good or it was bad, and if they should feel bad for making it. So, Phil, if they want to talk to you about all that's going on, how can they reach out to you?
You can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. Basically, all my social media is nightwingpdp, so check it out.
Okay, and if you'd like to write to me about whatever strikes your fancy, please do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And of course, if you'd like to tweet along with me as I tweet about the shows on the televisions, most notably The Incredible Hulk, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on MeTV, which I do in relationship to my podcasting with Dave White on the GammaCast on the all new, well, not all new, but the 80s Reboot Rewind Overdrive, 80s Reboot Overdrive. It's on the Nuff Set channel. Just type in 80s, you'll find us. Look for GammaCast. You can always tweet along with me at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEesser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. That's our show for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Please connect with us again next.